The crystal glasses chimed softly. Silverware whispered against porcelain. Around the long mahogany table, men in tailored suits spoke in low, careful tones about arrangements that could bury every one of them beneath concrete and steel bars. At the head of the table sat Victor Romano. He watched the room the way a hawk studies a field, patient, precise, merciless. His jaw looked hewn from stone, his dark eyes steady and unreadable. Nothing in his house moved without his noticing. In the center of the massive table, dwarfed by leather chairs and dangerous men, sat a small child. Sophia Romano, 6 years old, black curls pinned back with a silver clip, patent shoes swinging inches above the polished floor. She had never spoken, not once, not, Papa, not, please, not even a cry that shaped itself into something like language. There had been neurologists at Johns Hopkins, behavioral experts from Zurich, speech therapists who charged more per hour than most people made in a week. Tests, scans, whispered consultations in hallways. Silence remained. Victor had stopped chasing answers 2 years earlier, not long after his wife, Margaret, was lowered into the earth under gray November skies. He told himself Sophia was simply wired differently. Sensitive, untouched by the noise of the world. He told himself it was enough that she breathed. The Jersey containers dock Thursday night, Nico said, slicing through his steak with surgical calm. He was Victor's most trusted lieutenant, compact, sharp-eyed, loyal to a fault. Harbor patrols distracted with that filly seizure were clear. Victor gave a single nod. Increase security. I want eyes on every crane. Already arranging it. At the edge of the room, the kitchen door swung open. The waitress stepped through carefully. She was young, 24, maybe 25, with chestnut hair pulled tight at the nape of her neck. The catering uniform hung slightly loose on her narrow frame. Her name was Elena Parker. She had only learned whose estate she was serving when black SUVs sealed off the driveway and a stone-faced man with a shoulder holster inspected her driver's license like it might explode. By then, quitting wasn't an option. Elena needed the $200 promised for the night. Her grandmother's oxygen tank rental was overdue. The electric bill at the small apartment in Trenton sat unopened on the kitchen counter. Every dollar had a destination before it even touched her palm. She moved quietly around the table, refilling glasses. Her hands trembled despite her effort to steady them. She focused on the rhythm: tilt, pour, straighten. Red wine rose obediently to the rim of Victor's glass and stopped, perfect. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Then she felt it. A shift in the air. Not loud, not visible, but different. Elena glanced up. The men were still talking numbers and routes and bribes. Nothing had changed, except Sophia. The little girl was staring at her. Not the casual curiosity of a child watching a stranger. Not distraction. Focus. Her dark eyes were locked onto Elena's face with an intensity that made the back of Elena's neck prickle. Elena forced a polite smile. "Hi," she whispered automatically, though she'd been warned not to engage. Sophia didn't smile back. She didn't blink. Victor noticed. He noticed everything. His gaze shifted from Nico to his daughter, then to the waitress. It was subtle, barely a movement, but the temperature at the table seemed to drop 10 degrees. "What is it?" he asked quietly. Nico stopped speaking mid-sentence. Sophia slowly lifted one small hand and pointed at Elena. A murmur rippled around the table. Chairs creaked. One of the men near the far end reached instinctively toward his jacket. Elena's pulse slammed against her ribs. I'm sorry if I did something wrong," she stammered. Sophia's finger didn't waver. Victor's voice was calm, but it carried iron. Sophia. The girl's lips parted. For 6 years, they had parted only for breath and food. Victor leaned forward slightly, something dangerous and hopeful flickering behind his eyes. "Baby," he said, softer now. "What is it?" The entire room held its breath. Sophia's small chest rose, fell. Then, in a voice rough from disuse, fragile as cracked glass, she spoke. "Don't." The word was barely louder than the scrape of a fork. But it might as well have been a gunshot. Every man at the table froze. Victor's heart stopped. Sophia swallowed, her gaze never leaving Elena. "Don't drink it." Silence detonated across the room. Nico was the first to move. He knocked Victor's glass from his hand. It shattered against the hardwood floor, red wine blooming across it like spilled blood. 2 men seized Elena before she could react. "I didn't," she cried, panic flooding her voice. "I swear I didn't put anything in it. I didn't." Victor stood slowly. His eyes never left his daughter. "Sophia," he said carefully, as if approaching a wild animal. "Why?" The girl's face had gone pale. "He's lying," she whispered. Victor's head turned, not toward Elena, toward Nico. The room shifted. Nico's expression flickered, just for a second. A crack in composure, a calculation. Victor saw it. He had trusted Nico with shipments, with money, with blood. But Sophia had never spoken. Not in 6 years. Victor's voice was quiet now, lethal in its softness. "Search him." Nico laughed once, too sharp. "Vic, you're going to take the word of a kid who's never said a damn thing over." The first guard was already moving. Within seconds, they found it. A small vial tucked into Nico's inner pocket. Clear liquid, odorless, enough to stop a heart in under a minute. Nico's face drained of color. "You don't understand." Victor raised a hand. Silence. He looked at Sophia again. She had lowered her hand. Her eyes were heavy now, as if whatever door she'd forced open inside herself had cost her everything. Victor crossed the distance between them and knelt beside her chair. For a moment, he wasn't a kingpin. He was just a father staring at a miracle. "You saved me," he said, his voice barely steady. Sophia blinked. And for the first time in her life, she reached for him. Wrapped her small fingers around his sleeve. Victor closed his eyes briefly, breathing her in as if anchoring himself to the world. Behind him, Nico was dragged toward the door. Elena stood trembling, tears streaming down her face, released but forgotten. Victor rose, his arm around his daughter. "Pay her double," he said without looking back. "And make sure she gets home safe." Then he carried Sophia out of the room. The men at the table sat in stunned silence, the taste of iron thick in their mouths. The crystal glasses no longer chimed. The forks no longer scraped. And for the first time in years, Victor Romano understood that the most dangerous power in the room had never belonged to him.